if everybody else is.
All right. I just want to make sure all three of you that are here in the room, you have your mics.
Yep.
And
Yes.
just if you can each speak so that we can make sure everybody can hear you.
All right, I'm here.
Hello.
Say anything.
Just speak so we know.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can everybody who's like Kathy and Leonard, can you hear that? Can you hear them?
I can hear them.
I can
Okay.
hear him.
Okay, good. All right. Get back. Good evening. This is going to be the Board of Supervisors meeting. We will be taking public comment in one of four ways. You could have dropped public comment off at the drop box at the entrance of the Township building. I have checked the drop box. There is no public comment in it. By raising your hand during the Zoom meeting, we will recognize you at the appropriate time when we're taking public comment. You can also do the same thing by phone. And if by any chance you're having problems with either one of those, we will check the email, publiccomment@newtowntownship.org. Again, that's publiccomment@newtowntownship.org. However, for public comment, we've asked that everybody submit that as prior to the meeting, if that's possible. So, but we will be monitoring that throughout the meeting this evening. I will turn the meeting over to Ms. Roberts Lightcap.
I call this meeting of the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors, January 10th at 2022 to order. We had executive session at 6 p.m. to discuss 2 legal and 1 HR matter. Out of order. Roll call, please, Mr. Neese.
Mr. Altieri,
Here.
Mr. Partridge,
Here.
Ms. Roberts Lightcap,
Here.
Mr. Russo,
Here.
Ms. Chandlis.
Here.
All right, we'll now move. Oops, sorry about that.
I'm sorry, your solicitor, engineer, and manager are here as well.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, and we'll now move into the moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. While we move into this moment of silence, I ask that we remember those individuals who lost their lives in the Fairmount fire, as well as those who lost their lives in the New York City fire. This is a good reminder for all of us to check our smoke detectors. As the saying goes, when you change your clocks, you should also check your smoke detectors. So let's remember them as we do this moment of silence. Now we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Next item is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there
Second.
a second? Motion has been made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Russo to approve the agenda as presented. Is there any board discussion? Seeing no, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. We'll now move into public comment for agenda items only. Is there any members of the public that wish to have any comment with regards to agenda items only? I see none on this the Zoom, Mr. Neese. I don't know if there's anyone in the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I don't see any on Zoom, nor do I see any in our email box.
All right. I should also make note that The township, as everybody knows, I believe it was on Thursday, has moved to a hybrid model. The reason for that is obviously with the cases surging, the COVID cases surging, we are trying to do all that we can to limit the amount of individuals that are in the meeting room. And so the hybrid model, as we know, has been tested before and has turned out to be successful. And so that is why we're moving forward under this until further notice. We'll now move into the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the January 3rd, 2022 meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor Chandler to approve the minutes from the January 3rd, 2022 meeting. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. We'll now move into the resolutions of recognition. Consider approving resolution 2022-04, recognizing Dorothy Jacobs' years of service. Supervisor Roberts Lightcap.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution 2022-04, recognizing Dorothy Jacobs. Whereas the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township, Delaware County, Pennsylvania desires on behalf of the citizens of Newtown to publicly recognize the service of Dorothy Jacobs to the Newtown Square community. And whereas Dorothy Jacobs worked for the Newtown Township Police Department since March 26, 1984. And whereas Dorothy Jacobs lived in Newtown Square for over 50 years and was involved in serving her community in numerous ways. And whereas Dorothy Jacobs passed away suddenly on Saturday, December 18th, 2021, after 37 years of service to the Newtown Township community and the Newtown Township Police Department. Now there be it resolved that Newtown Township hereby acknowledges the exemplary public service, dedication, and commitment to the residents of Newtown Township demonstrated by Dorothy Jacobs, adopted this 10th day of January 2022. That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Motion has been made by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, seconded by Supervisor Russo to approve resolution 2022-04, recognizing Dorothy Jacobs' years of service. Is there any board discussion? I think that the resolution speaks for itself with regards to the board. I know that there's a lot of individuals, it looks like from her family, that are on here, that are on the Zoom portal. I don't know if any of them would like to add anything or to say anything before this vote. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And to the Jacobs family, please know our deepest condolences. She was a great person and she was loved by a lot of people. So we'll now move into the presentations. The Echo Valley Stormwater presentation by the Township Engineer, Eileen Nelson.
Hold on one second. See, Eileen, I'm just having a problem with my computer. Huh. Do it this way.
Thanks. I apologize. I was not given the link, so I was not in as a panelist at first. Okay. Stephen, can you open up the exhibit for me and then give me control, please?
Actually, if you want control, I need you to open up the exhibit. I'm not opening up the, oh, I can open it up, but I think it's.
I know everybody understands that my stormwater presentations are, no pun intended, very dry, so I apologize ahead of time. The exhibit that I pulled together was just from existing sources of information to try and get the lay of the land as it relates to area that drains to the Echo Valley development from the more recently developed properties of Lissitor, Whitehorse, and Episcopal. And hopefully it will open up soon.
I don't, because I've opened it up, I don't think you can take control. So if you'll just tell me what you want done and we'll do it.
Okay, I just wanted to kind of show everyone, like from an historic perspective, the Echo Valley development was constructed in the late 1950s, early 1960s. The design and construction predated the stormwater management and floodplain requirements that were established by the Pennsylvania Act 166 floodplain and 167 stormwater management acts of 1978. Echo Valley contains approximately 250 acres, 3.5 miles of road, and 145 homes. There are a total of 66 inlets, 9 culverted road stream crossings, and no stormwater controls within the development. The floodplain that is shown on that exhibit was originally prepared by FEMA in 1979. And the depiction shown here is as updated for the entire county mapping in November of 2009. So that's the last time it was touched. The Whitehorse Development and Episcopal Academy were originally designed in 1998 as a 232.5 acre residential development. When the parcel was subdivided for Episcopal, the Whitehorse development was left with 1.7 miles of road and 57 buildable lots. There are a total of 83 inlets and 4 conventional retention basins, with a total of 389,404 cubic feet of volume storage based on the as-built surveys that were prepared by Chester Valley engineers and approved by McCombie's office as part of the dedication process to accept the development roads. I believe that was back in 2016 or 17. It should be noted that the design volumes here were proposed to be 263,108 cubic feet, and that represents 48% more volume than was designed in the as-built condition. These basins discharge to
Eileen, can I just stop you? I'm sorry.
You
real quick.
can.
Is there's no, for those of us on Zoom, there's nothing that's popping up.
I'll tell you, my apologies. Let me see. Hold on a second. Can
Thank
see
you.
it right now?
Yep, there it is.
That's my fault. Sorry.
Okay, so to the left is the Whitehorse development, you can see, and if we can zoom in, let me see. So you can't give me control now, Stephen?
I don't think you have control of the mouse.
Okay, if you could zoom in, yeah, Whitehorse is right off of Whitehorse Road. It contains Bridle, Withers, and Farrier Lanes. And the 4 basins are positioned along that tributary that drains down into the 50-acre preserve and then into Echo Valley. And as I mentioned, those basins are collectively providing almost 50% more volume than they were intended to do in the design. Due to the timing of the approvals for that project, because of when it was proposed, it's not part of the annual inspection program that we have that was set forth in, I believe, the amendments to the stormwater ordinance in 2013. But the exhibit on the east side of this tributary shows the development of the school's campus with a variety of control facilities, including 8 infiltration beds, which are shown, I'm sorry, Leonard, they're shown in orange, but they are the ones that are more integral to the specific locations. Yeah, Stephen is pointing them out. There are also 4 conventional retention basins and 1 wet pond that the school uses to actually irrigate their fields during 8 months of the year. I believe that's the one that Stephen is pointing to right now. And in this instance, we annually inspect these facilities to make sure that they're performing properly. The last inspection was in August of 2021, and some minor cleanup items were mentioned during that, but nothing significantly impacting their function. So they all appear to be working as designed. If we move down to the 431 acre Lister development, you can see all those little squares. We didn't put the exact shape because some of them are very odd shaped facilities, but all of those are the proposed facilities for stormwater management within that 431 acre development, which will have a total of 449 units upon full build out, a private road system. And I think if you count up each of those squares, it's approximately 250 control facilities. They are in the form of infiltration beds, galleries, and common area beds sprinkled throughout the development, as you can see reflected here. This 2007 design, approved in 2011, was overall intended to provide direct replacement of runoff from new impervious surfaces back into the ground as near as possible to the source of the change. There's only 1 dry pond within the development and several wet ponds on site that don't really perform much of a significant function for stormwater, but they have aesthetic appeal. The facilities that are associated with phases 1 and 2, which are the majority of the larger lots on the southern end of the property, are all open and functioning. And phases 3 and 4, which are in the northern side of the property, are expected to be completed in the spring of 2022. These will all be subject to the annual inspections for 10 years following the completion at the developer's expense. They posted over $200,000 for those inspections to take place over time. Over the past year, we've performed periodic inspections and site visits to ascertain the proper functioning of all of this in the 600 some acre drainage area. It's just about a square mile that drains down to the confluence of the tributary to Lewis Run and Lewis Run, right about the intersection of Echo Valley Lane and Meadow Lane. It's very close to there. Of note were the visits that we performed on September 2nd following Hurricane Ida, and again during a storm burst that was fortunately during the day on September 23rd. On the day after the hurricane, every basin in the township, and especially in this area, was observed was nearly full, but not overflowing, and appeared to be functioning properly. During the storm on September 23rd, observations were made that showed the collection of flow, most especially within the Whitehorse development and the series of inlets that they have there, being very effective without any bypass. As engineers, we do calculations for the spread of flow along a gutter line. And PennDOT standards are set up so that if you have more than half of the travel lane being inundated with water, you've got to provide another inlet. And I saw 0 cases where any of the flow was even escaping the inlets themselves, and they only stick out from the curb line by 2 feet. So my observations in this entire drainage area show that everything is functioning properly. Echo Valley is in a floodplain, as I mentioned before, and it will unfortunately always continue to flood when we get significant rain events.
Eileen,
Yes.
so the area behind the 50-acre preserve
Uh-huh.
meets, or right there, that whole little rectangle, the L shape that goes behind there. There's significant washout, there's significant trees falling that weren't like that 10 years ago. So what do we attribute that to?
Well, it does happen in natural areas even, and we're experiencing that all over the township. It's attributed, I believe, to the more intense frequent storms.
Okay, but those three large basins for Whitehorse are right next to this area where this is happening. And the other area is the preserve, which obviously there's been no development in the preserve area. And that's all green.
It is.
So the only development is the Whitehorse side and the
Well,
pond.
Whitehorse and Episcopal both drain down into the 50-acre preserve.
Well, I can't tell from that because there's no grades, but
Well, there are elevations on the portion that contains Whitehorse. I'm sorry, not Whitehorse, but Episcopal. They are all elevations. You see the shaded steep slopes?
yeah, so that, what I'm saying is that area that comes down there on that portion of the, I don't know what they call that, not the Lewis Run, the other to the left.
Just a tributary to Lewis
A
Run,
lot of
yes.
water coming down from there that wasn't coming down there 10 years ago before these guys were developed. So the question is, you're sure that those ponds are operating properly, that they're letting the water out on a timed period? Because to me, the only way you'd have that much significant rain and washout is if these ponds weren't operating or these drainage facilities weren't operating properly, because they should be capturing all that water now and letting it out over time, correct?
They are capturing water. That's what there's nothing that escapes that storm system, and it directs flow to each of those 4 basins. It's not like it's all down at one. Stephen, if you could pull the map down again just to show Whitehorse itself. You can see where at the upper part of the map, that first basin, the system that comes from the top at the cul-de-sac and down goes through the yards and back and is piped to that basin, then discharged into the tributary. Then the next system discharges to the basin and then into the tributary. The third one is down at the intersection of Bridle and Farrier, goes to the third basin, and then the end of the cul-de-sac takes it to the last basin. Everything is being collected and taken to that point.
Could it be too much water's coming off Episcopal too quickly? Because they don't have any, I mean, you don't really have a lot of basins there.
But every project that they initiated had either an infiltration bed or an infiltration bed and a basin combined.
How do we know the infiltration? How do you test the infiltration bed to know that it's capturing the right amount of water?
Again, by the collection system to it. If it's functioning properly, which the inspections show it is, there was the one bed that runs along the headmaster's house, right where the arrow is, yep, that one. When we looked in there, there was some trash and debris because things get into inlets. We see it all the time, but nothing to impact the capacity or the ability to infiltrate. It just needed to be, the chamber needed to be cleaned out.
And so the one at the end, next to the detention basin, the end of Episcopal slash I guess if you're looking at it from this view, to the right of the last detention basin on Whitehorse, that one's operating properly?
Yes. I was up to my knees in it, but yes.
And is that just a series of pipes underground?
The
The
They're,
infiltration?
the chambers, they're like they call them storm tank. There's a bunch of different varieties, but they're chambers that have open space.
How big is that? What's the volume on the last one?
I'd have to double check that, Mike. I don't have that handy.
I'm just thinking there's still too much water coming off in a big storm onto the.
I was actually surprised a couple of site visits that there wasn't more flow in basins. The basin that is, I think it's Basin C. I was surprised at that, but what I saw was that infiltration was actually working, and that's why the discharge from that didn't result in a substantial amount of flow in the basin itself. Oh, it's Basin A, I'm sorry, it was that one. Because I had expected after Ida, especially, to see major amounts like I did in other locations. And that told me that the infiltration bed was doing its job.
I think we need to still visit that again. I think there's just too much water coming out of that property that wasn't coming out of that property before they built at a too fast of a rate, because there wouldn't be that much erosion. I mean, I have a creek behind my house and I've been there 15 years and it's basically the same as when I moved in. The one there that comes out of Episcopal into Echo Valley, there's severe erosion there, severe erosion. So something's got to be causing that. And to my mind, it's volume, flow. It's too much flow too fast. So it
Right.
seems like whoever designed that might have designed it to meet it, but it's not meeting the requirements because it's washing out the properties below it.
Well, all the
Significant.
entire Episcopal Whitehorse property was all done by Chester Valley engineers.
Well, I think
And
you have to have a meeting with them and have them come out here and look at what we're talking about and say, hey, listen, 10 years ago it wasn't like this. I don't care what your design says. People make mistakes and there's a mistake there. And we have people in my neighborhood that have significant erosion. I mean, significant. I'm on a creek and I don't have that erosion. And I've been there 15 years and I maintain I clean it out. If there's trash, I clean it out. If there's trees that fall in it, I take them out. And what we're seeing here is significant erosion, and it's coming from Episcopal. And I don't know if it's coming from Whitehorse. They have a lot of big basins, but
they do.
it's coming from Episcopal.
I do believe the basins that are associated with Whitehorse, because like I said, the overall project initially was done for all residential. I think that the Basin F and up top near the tennis courts may have actually been designed for the residential area first, because it was before my time. I don't have that firsthand information.
I think we need to have a meeting with them come spring, and we need to have a come to Jesus meeting with them and say, hey, listen, you're causing significant runoff. You're causing major erosion. I don't care what somebody's calculations say. Calculations are wrong. You can't see the erosion like these people are getting in their yards, coming closer and closer to their house that they didn't have when they bought that house 20 years ago. I mean, I don't care. It's the development's upstream that wasn't there before. So if their development is impacting these residents, then they have to fix it. If they had to put a big basin at the bottom and have it slowly drain out over time, that's what they have to do. I don't care what the plan says. I don't care what was approved. It's significant erosion. I don't have that erosion. I live off of, I don't know what one I'm off of, but I'm off of right where it says, zone A, B. And I don't have that erosion. I'm right off the old road into the estate, into the old Echo Valley estate. And I don't have erosion. And and the water goes up 3-4 feet and goes through there in these big storms, but it doesn't erode anything. So the people that are on that other side upstream or downstream from Episcopal are getting a major, major erosion. And we need to have it fixed. And we can't talk about it anymore. We need to have action. And again, I don't care what their calculations say, Episcopal's causing people's erosion. I don't think it's Whitehorse because Whitehorse is a lot less impervious coverage. Episcopal has a ton of impervious coverage, and whatever the system they have, you're right, might have been designed for residential, where they wouldn't have nearly as much impervious coverage as they have now. I mean, the fields are all AstroTurf. That water goes somewhere. It's not going through the turf. It's like concrete's under there. So again, the water that's coming off of Episcopal needs to be investigated. If they got to get Chester Valley out there to look at this, we need to have a meeting with them, and we got to say, what are you going to do to fix this? It's not right to these neighbors that are getting major erosion by their houses. It's just not. And I mean, it's obvious where it's coming from. And again, we've been talking about this now for 3 years, 4 years. It's time to act. And that's just my opinion as one person, but you know, it's not right. I mean, there is a problem. I don't care what the calculations say. I don't care what the design says. The problem is you see it's getting worse. I'm in the same development and mine isn't getting worse. So what's that tell you? It tells you that whatever Episcopal did, it's not working. It's obvious.
So Eileen, what's the purpose of this presentation? Are you coming to us with a solution, or is this just an informational?
This was only information
Okay.
because there are questions abounding as to, you know, whether these work or not. And as I can only speak to as designed, I can't.
I understand that, but we need to have a meeting with them. It's way past the point that it doesn't work. And there are solutions that are calculated on paper that don't work in reality in many situations. And this is one of them. And again, maybe you're right. Maybe it was designed for residential where there's a lot less impervious coverage. And maybe that's what would happen here. And no one ever caught it and no one ever checked it. You weren't involved then. Who knows who checked it, who missed it? You know, what was missed? We don't know. But it's obvious when they're getting this major erosion, it's getting worse and worse. And in the same development on a different spur, that creek system, whatever you want to call it, creek brook system, is not having the same problems, and they're getting just as much. We're getting just as much rain. We're in the same neighborhood. I mean, I'm getting mine's not eroding at anywhere near the pace that this is eroding.
So you back up to Lewis Run directly.
I'm not sure which one I'm at. I'm at the one.
You said zone AE there?
I'm right there at zone A, the creek that goes through, comes down the other side of Lissa.
Because that is the drainage from the upstream area too. So that's what
Right,
doesn't.
but I'm off the spur. I'm not on that main one. I'm off the spur.
Oh, okay.
Where it says 259, is that 269?
269
Where
there?
that word is, that's where my.
Right, right around the bend?
Yeah. I can
Okay.
walk that whole thing and it looks like it did 15 years ago.
Well, that's kind of good news because initially there was a lot of concern that what was coming in through Fox Hill and that tributary there was a problem too from Episcopal. So if you're saying that's the same, then we can focus our
No,
efforts
I think
exclusively.
if you look at Fox Hill Lane, the property there, it's all that huge area of tree. There's a huge planting of trees, that huge grouping of trees right along Goshen Road there. That whole area is a huge green space. And the houses that are there are those bigger houses that have mostly green space yards. The driveways are very small. The houses might be big, but they're so far away from the property.
And they have all those facilities as well.
They have all that
Yep.
green space. They planted trees. There's all that green space to absorb the water. Whereas if you go over there, you have so much getting concentration right at that point, it just comes into that situation and it's all developed. I mean, there's not a lot of green space there. And again, I don't know, maybe you're correct. And maybe since you weren't here, that was designed for residential, a lot less impervious coverage. It was never adjusted and no one ever caught it. It was a mistake or an oversight, whatever you want to call it. But I think we need to do further investigation on that particular area and bring their engineer in and let him tell us or her tell us what they did and what they're going to do to mitigate the situation. I mean, we can't let it continue. at some point, it's going to get to these people's houses.
All right. Does any other board member have anything they want to add? What I think we could probably do, I mean, Mike, I think I heard you say that you want to have a follow-up meeting or have a meeting with the Episcopal Academy. Eileen, if you want, or Steve want to set that up, I will join that as well with you, Mike. And we can see what we find out and bring it back to the board. Unless there's another board member who has a burning desire to do this.
I'll do it.
I'll jump on it with you then, Mike. Do any other board members have any questions for Eileen or any comments on this? All right. Seeing none, we'll move down to reports. 11.1, the report from the police department. Chief Lunn, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add or if any board members have anything that they want to ask the chief. Seeing none, we'll move down.
I just want to know one thing, Steve. Can you tell us if they got their K9 unit car yet?
Yes, they do.
Oh, they got it finally? Good.
They did get the payment.
Great.
Any other board discussion? All right, 11.2, report from the Public Works Director, Mr. Sharretts. Does any board member have any questions for Mr. Sharretts, or Mr. Sharretts, you want to add anything to your report? Seeing none, we'll move down to 11.3, report from the Building and Codes Officer, Mr. Reczek. Does Mr. Reczek, do you have anything you want to add, or did any board members have any questions for him? Seeing none, we'll move down to 11.4, report from the Finance Director. I know Mr. LaFiata is out, so does anybody have any questions for Mr. Neese regarding the finance report? Seeing none, we'll move down to the Library Director, Arlene. Does any board member have any questions for Arlene, or does Arlene need to add anything to it? All right, seeing none, we'll continue. 11.6.
Chairman, I'm sorry if I could for just a moment. I just wanted to let the public know that the library continues to be closed due to some staffing issues related to COVID, but they are doing contactless pickup. So if somebody wants to come in and do that. So just want to make sure that they're aware of that. And if they're looking for the times, if they would go and check the library's website, the Newtown website, our website is now directing everybody to the library website.
Perfect. Any questions? All right, seeing none, we'll move down to 11.6. Eileen, your report.
The only thing I would have to add was I got confirmation from the Glendale road contractor that the mid-February start still looks good from his precaster. And I wanted to talk to you all about Earl's Lake and the potential for the township to team with Radnor Township to get a grant application together for the flood hazard mitigation. At the completion of the partial dam breach, DEP somewhat washed their hands of it and told all the Radnor residents downstream that they wouldn't do anything more. But there's been, again, significant washout, and it could potentially impact the pump station there for the Newtown Sewer Authority. So there was a preliminary meeting set up for discussion on Thursday of this week for Steve and I to go to Radnor or meet with Radnor in some way, probably through Zoom. And we just wanted confirmation that the board wanted us to pursue that.
What's the board's direction?
Yes.
I think it's worth pursuing.
Okay.
All right, you have your direction. Is there anything else, Eileen?
I have something for Eileen. Eileen, we're still seeing tons of dirt on the road on 252 again this weekend. John Ford, when he was here the last time talking to us, he said he was mitigating that and
They actually told me last week that they have a gentleman standing there, stationed at the driveway.
I'll tell you, I was out there on Sunday morning, very early, and before the rain, and it was brown. And it's just unacceptable. I mean, it's to the point now where that whole entrance has to be shut down. I don't care if it costs them $1 million to go the other way. It's got to be shut down.
They explained to me that deliveries were done at that.
Well,
Yeah,
then the entrance should be stopped. The superintendent can get a gator, park his truck up by the Mod Pizza and take a gator down to his office trailer. There's no reason they need to come in that entrance if they can't stay off the dirt. It's ridiculous. Radnor, Lower Merion, they shut these jobs down. I've done work in those towns. The minute dirt gets on the road, it's shut down. And Lancaster Avenue is a PennDOT road, just like this is a PennDOT road. So I don't want to hear we don't have control over it. Yes, we do. We shut the job down. If they can't get the dirt off the road and Spader can't get out there with a broom and clean it, then they shut the job down. I don't want to see this anymore. This is ridiculous. Everybody and his brother drives on 252 and complains about this. And it's not right. It's just not right. They've told us they're not going to go in that entrance anymore, yet they go in the entrance. They can shut the entrance down and put a fence up, have them put a fence around the road just so they can get to the pump station. That's it. If the guy wants to have a gate put in so he can park on the road with a curb and then he can walk with his shoes onto the trailer, that's fine. I don't want to see any more vehicles going on dirt from that road. It's not appropriate.
Question, so if they're working 7 days a week, you saw this on Sunday.
Well, no, they didn't clean it from Friday. That's the problem.
Well,
We're Saturday. I don't know. Maybe they were there Saturday. I don't know.
well, I think they're working. on
They might have been there Saturday. I don't know.
So the question is that guy stationed there or that person stationed there, for all the work days or just during the week and it's not being monitored on the weekend? Can you check into that, Eileen?
absolutely. I believe it's just through the week. And they told me that deliveries were stopped so that it would cut down on the traffic, but that the people that get access to the job trailer, because that's where the job trailer is positioned, would still continue to use it. And I know we can't close it completely because we need to get KBX in there for the pump station itself. But
if there's work going on the weekend, then if they have a guy monitoring this situation, then it has to go on 7 days a week.
they should have them there on the weekend too. Absolutely.
No reason to use that for construction anymore. He said he didn't need it anymore. Have him put a curb up around that driveway, have him put a steel fence up, nice steel or iron fence look, the aluminum iron fence look with a gate. The guy can park his truck on the pavement for the pump station and walk to his trailer. Done. There's no reason to go in and off of 252 anymore. It's not necessary. They've abused the privilege. They don't deserve to have the privilege anymore. That's what happens in Radnor and Lower Merion. I don't understand how Radnor and Lower Merion can shut these jobs down. And we sit here and let our residents be inconvenienced by this thing that he's been telling us for 6 months is going to be taken care of. It shouldn't be a conversation anymore. It should be either you shut the entrance or your job gets shut down. And let Steve Spader go out there with a broom and clean it. I'm serious. This is ridiculous. He's the big mahoof over there. You call him and tell him to come in and see you, Steve. You tell him you want to have a meeting with him. You bring him in and say the road's going to be shut down if it's not fixed. We want a fence around the pump station. We don't want anybody else driving through that site off out of that entrance. That's done.
I know that we had a conversation a few months ago about making sure that when there's violations like this, that they're being cited. Are we still doing that, Mr. Neese or Eileen? Because I mean, this is a consistent complaint. I mean,
Andy does the citations. Yeah, Andy does the citations, and I know he issued one. I just don't know whether there was any fine associated with it or not.
Well, I think the one thing I don't understand, this is one thing that boggles my mind. I mean, this is a consistent complaint time and time and time again. And it's a valid complaint. It's one that we all see, not just us five, but everybody in this township. So I don't understand why we are not keeping, as if it was anyone else, and I'm not saying that we're giving preferential treatment, but this is blatantly obvious and it's something that's on the radar and it happens week after week after week. So I think that for consistency's sake, we need to ensure that, our codes are being followed. And so maybe we need to revisit that as well. I mean, I just don't understand how many times we can have the same discussion over and over again. I mean, it's the
You don't have to let them use an entrance to a pump station for construction access. We can say no. It was approved as a pump station access only, not a construction entrance. It does not have to be. We do not have to allow that. We can say if you want to use that, the job gets shut down. Let them go lose a few $100,000 with the road shut down for a week or two. Then see how happy they are. I really don't care. They're bad neighbors. It's to the point now where they come up here, they tell us they're gonna fix it. We don't, I don't know. I work in Lower Merion and Radnor, a little speck of dirt gets on the ground, the job shut down. I don't understand how here we have the whole road inundated with mud week after week after week, and we sit here and talk about it, but nothing happens.
So can I just ask a question? When they present their construction plans, did it have a construction entrance on 252 or no? Or it's just the pump station entrance? That's something, Eileen, do you know that offhand?
It was the pump station access, and they made it from the paved surface a construction entrance.
Yeah, but
wait,
Eileen,
no,
it's
can
not approved as that.
But is that part of their bill? Is that part of their construction plan? Because don't you have to show access on these construction plans, especially for PennDOT?
Yes, and that was
Shown as a construction access?
a modification afterwards, yes.
And do we have to approve that modification or?
To their MPD, well, it's their MPDES permit with the Conservation District and DEP.
I can't believe that MPDES permit is the way it is without a fence. I don't understand that. Property and it's not fenced. I mean, and it slopes down. It just doesn't make sense to me. Mike and I get copies of, and whoever else on the board would like to get copies of the MPDES permit?
Yes.
I want you to have them come in, their management, not just John Ford. Let Steve Spader, he's supposed to runs the show on these projects. Have him come in and talk to you. Tell him we want the entrance shut down.
Okay.
And if not, we're shutting the project down. Let them take us to court. We have Mr. Sikora, we have Mr. Catania. Let them go to court. Let them lose a week of construction. I really don't care anymore. They're bad neighbors.
Well, let's look at the MPDES plan.
No, but the point is,
We have to tell
I mean,
them
how
they
much,
gotta
I
clean
mean,
it up.
Leonard gave us a video in a storm, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, where the mud was rolling out of the site. Okay, that's an extreme situation. It's not an extreme situation now. It's them being negligent and not cleaning the road. I mean, and they told us they don't need to use that entrance anymore. What were they here last month about the houses?
Yep.
That was the middle of December or the end of December. No, the beginning of December he came. The second meeting they had with us where John said they're not going to have to use that entrance anymore. They're done with the construction over there. And I'm like, great. But obviously their superintendent or whoever keeps driving in the mud because he's too lazy to walk from the pavement to his trailer or whoever. And they're dragging the mud onto the road, which is unnecessary. There's no reason we can't have them put a curb up around that pavement, put a fence up, put a gate in, the guy can park on the pavement and walk to the trailer.
All right, so let's get the NPDES permits for whoever wants them on the board. Steve, relay the rest of this information, set up that meeting, I guess. Because it is, I mean, not to keep rehashing it, so we're going to move on now, but it is. I mean, I think that if we look at the minutes for the last year, if we meet twice a month, what is that, 24 meetings? I would suspect that we talk about this 20 times. It's in the minutes 20 different times. So, all right, anyone else have any questions for Eileen? Eileen, do you have anything else you want to add, or are you good?
No, that was all.
All right, thank you, Eileen. We'll now move down to the Township Manager, Mr. Neese.
Yes, the only thing I have to update you on is, we have I thought our Public Works team did a good job last snowstorm, just particularly being down a couple people and making that happen. And so I just wanted to say I really appreciate the work they did to make that work.
Yeah, I concur. They did a great job. They pre-salted all the roads. I didn't even have snow on my road when I got out of them.
Yeah, they were really trying to be on top of things, and I know that they've been in. I know George was in at 4:30 this morning. One of the reasons why he's not here this evening. I told
He was
him
actually here at 6:30 when I rolled in.
Yeah, I sent him home, but he was slow leaving. But so yeah, he was here this morning doing some salt treatment. But I just wanted you to know that I thought they did a superb job,
really did.
particularly being down a number of employees. So thank them. Other than that, I'm going to keep pretty quiet tonight.
Perfect. All right, anyone have any questions for the Township Manager? I do have one. Where are we with regards to the stormwater management? I know that we were talking about projects. The last time we had this discussion, we allocated some of that or all of the stimulus money, if you will, to some projects. And we talked about putting together a list of projects that we can start kind of tackling now as we the holistic view. Where are we on that?
So the first step, I think, is for us to continue. Eileen has given us the report back of the locations that we have. We're working on setting up a priority list, and we'll get that back to you, and then we'll come up with what that cost is for the top 5, just so that we have an idea of what it will cost us to move forward.
And when do you think you'll have the priority list?
We were supposed to meet before Christmas. We were unable to do so. I would hope that we could have it to you by the first meeting in February.
Any chance we can have it by the third meeting in January, or is that impossible?
I would have to defer a little bit to Eileen and to George. So
if we can make it happen, because again, as I said, time and time again, I think a lot of people are tired of hearing us say that we're studying, and while it's extremely important, so we don't waste the money, I think all of us want to see some movement on this, because the storms are getting worse and people's property just keeps getting destroyed. So, all right, we'll move down to bills. 12.1. I looked at the bills, and so I'll make the motion to approve 2021 bills on check registry A dated January 10th, 2022, totaling $40,726.17. That is my motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. I also will make the following motion, 12.2, as I review the bills. Can I get a motion approving the 2022 bills on check registry A dated January 10th, 2022, totaling $1,402.50?
A second or a motion?
I'm sorry, that is my motion. Can I get a second?
Ed seconded it.
Motion was made by the chair, seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We'll now get into land development, section 13, land development approval. 13.1, consider approving the preliminary final land development plan for SAP. And I believe that Mr. Petroza is in the room.
Yeah, I'm going to recuse myself again as an employee of SAP, so you can move on this issue without me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Partridge. And for those of you who did not hear that, as Mr. Partridge is an employee of SAP, he will be recusing himself from this matter.
yeah, they're still with us. I just need to know if there's anything you want up. I just need to know if there's anything that you want up.
Oh, this is for the SAP. Yeah.
Really, we made our presentation last meeting, but I know Kathy was not on the board at the time.
Hey, Steve, we can't really hear Don, and we can't see him either.
How about now? Is that, you got it now?
I can hear you now, Don. I just can't see your smiling face, though.
Okay. What I started to say, we made a presentation at the last meeting, but I know Kathy was not here, and I didn't know if you wanted me to recap just a little bit to tell Kathy what the project's about, or whether you just want to ask any questions that you might have with us.
Don, I would do that. I would just do a quick recap, just in case there are individuals from the public who have any follow-up questions as well. I think it's probably just best then to make sure that Supervisor Chandler is up to date as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was watching, I was virtual last time, but it would be helpful if you could do a recap anyway.
Okay, just very briefly, I'm sure you know where SAP is, and property is about 110 acres. It's located in the SU1 zoning district. It was originally approved for two 450,000 square foot buildings back in 1997. The first building was constructed in 1999. It is referred to as NSQ1. It is on the Westchester Pike side, closer to the road in the front, and it's only 420,000 square feet instead of 450,000 square feet. An amended plan was approved in 2007, and a smaller second building was built in 2009 to the rear of the first building, and that building, although it was approved for 450,000 square feet, is about 218,000 square feet. So it's significantly less than what was approved. The current plan calls for the construction of a 7,590 square foot customer showcase pavilion between the two existing buildings. So it's really, you won't even be able to see it from Westchester Pike. It's tucked in between the two buildings, sort of to the right-hand side as you're standing at Westchester Pike looking up. And the existing buildings are 3 stories tall. This is 1 story. It's about 18 feet in height, so it won't even be visible from beyond the two buildings. The functions that will take place in the pavilion are already taking place on site, but the space where they're taking place is not adequate. So this is a dedicated space, which is, they refer to it as the next generation showcase pavilion, which will create a dedicated space where SAP customers can fully experience both in person and virtually how SAP digital solutions will work in their particular businesses. The showcase pavilion will model an intelligent factory with real-world industrial equipment. The space will have a modern industrial feel and give customers the impression that they have stepped onto a state-of-the-art factory floor. In addition to the factory experience, the pavilion will also be host to customer design think workshops where SAP teams will engage with customers, and SAP teams can brainstorm, share ideas, and establish a vision for the future of their digital supply chain. And as I mentioned, this will take place both in person and virtually. So they have some high-end video equipment, and so that people can, potential customers can observe it from their offices or from their homes. And the outdoor space, there's an outdoor courtyard near where the pavilion will be, lends itself to an easy transition between indoor and outdoor space. And we received review letters from the township engineer dated November 16th. And our response was will comply. We also received a letter from Delaware County Planning Commission recommending approval, and the fire marshal has reviewed it, issued a couple of review letters, and that's a will comply to his comments as well. And then we had a review letter from Rockwell, the township's landscaper planning consultant, which indicates that they're satisfied with the plans that have been submitted, the revised plans that have been submitted. The Township Planning Commission recommended preliminary final approval on November 23rd, 2021, subject to compliance to the township engineer's satisfaction of the November 16th, 2021 review letter, as well as the fire marshal's review letters and Rockwell's landscape review. The Planning Commission also recommended a waiver from section 148-12A to permit the project to proceed as a preliminary final plan instead of in 2 separate phases. The plans consist of 38 sheets and are dated August 23rd, 2021, last revised October 22nd, 2021. And that's basically it. I think at the last meeting, the board acknowledged that it's basically a by right plan. There were some other, issues, but I think the project meets all the requirements for preliminary final plan development approval.
Mr. Sikora, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think Mr. Petroza did a good summary. The board had requested that SAP take this opportunity while lines of communication were open to have discussions with the township regarding the extension of the Goshen Road Trail. We did meet with SAP. I'd say we had some very productive discussions. Those discussions are ongoing through in-person meeting and then follow-up emails and follow-up phone calls. So I think that's an ongoing, continuing discussion that everybody's indicated that they want to keep going.
Perfect. Is there any questions from the board? All right. Hearing none, is there any questions from the audience? Or from the public, I should say? I am not seeing any.
I'm not
All right.
either, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Mr. Petroza, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, sir.
Well, it was nice seeing you, and thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
All right, so 13.1. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, motion has been made by Supervisor Chanlis. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor of approving the preliminary final land development plan for SAP signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with 1 abstention. All right. We'll now move to, and I apologize, I just put a cough drop in my mouth, but 13.2, consider approving the change to the PRD to allow installation of T-Mobile's antennas and related equipment on the rooftop of the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel as recommended by the Township Planning Commission.
I think Mr. Michael Grob will have to join as a panelist.
Here's a perfect.
Unmute, and if you wish to be seen, you need to turn your video on, please.
I'm sorry, my video is not operational. I apologize for that.
Okay.
I had some issues with my desktop today and actually had to use my phone, which doesn't allow that.
Steve, can you also turn the camera back to the board as well?
Us, Leonard, do you want to see us? Is that what it is?
I like to know who I'm talking to. When I can't see you all in person, I get,
Let's
Very-
see if you're making faces at him.
yeah, exactly. All right, Mr. Sikora, can you give an overview, frame this, if you will, for the audience as well as to the board? One of the things that this board has had a discussion about is, a lot of this is second nature to us. We kind of jump into it. So in order to continue to ensure that the public is informed about what's going on, we're going to be asking, when appropriate, our solicitor to kind of give an overview of what it is that the board's discussing, so that the residents who are listening or who are in public or who are in person, I should say, can also understand what's going on and follow. So, Mr. Sikora.
Yes, sir. So as you know, we have a large development underway in town at this roughly 222 acre section. We call it BPG or the Ellis Preserve. The residents have different names for it. That is a planned residential development, notwithstanding the name residential. It's a mix of residential and non-residential. It's been being constructed in phases because of the nature of a PRD under the municipality's planning code. It's unique in that it's an overlay district that sits on top of the old zoning districts and becomes, upon approval, its own zoning district. This application is to move some mobile phone transmission facilities from an existing tower at the old firehouse on Route 252 to some smaller package antenna type materials behind a parapet on top of the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel in the PRD. It was initially filed as a conditional use for conditional use approval into the underlying zoning district, but because it's a new zoning district by virtue of the PRD, we said, hey, well, you actually gotta go through the PRD process. But then, of course, looking through the PRD, the enabling ordinance, cell facilities were not listed as a permitted use. So it's not so while to add a use at an existing structure that wasn't in the original plan would require Board of Supervisor approval under the PRD process. You can't necessarily approve that a non-permitted use. That's a zoning issue. So there would be some variance or some similar relief required in front of the zoning hearing board. So what Mr. Grob is the attorney representing the provider who wants to put the facilities here. He's here tonight to open the hearing to provide an overview of the project and the materials upon which he intends to rely, answer any questions that the board has, and receive any questions that he might not be able to answer as to what the board would like to see answered either at the zoning hearing or the conclusion of this hearing. So we want to just open it tonight, get the information, get that information flow going, and then send it to the zoning hearing board, and then come back to you for conclusion. That's
All right, thank you, Mr. Sikora. Mr. Grob, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. Again, my name is Michael Grob. I'm legal counsel for T-Mobile. And Mr. Sikora did a very good job of describing what the project is, a relatively straightforward proposal. T-Mobile has to decommission the existing site that's located on the top of what was the fire company in the township, because that building is going to be demolished. So that site has to go away. And the proposal is to relocate it approximately 0.15 miles away on the top of the Hilton Hotel building, which is located, as Mr. Sikora indicated, in the PRD zoning district. So what T-Mobile proposes to do is to relocate those antennas and to upgrade them to the rooftop of the Hilton. The Hilton building, I'm sure the board is familiar with it, is a 4-story building. The top of the building is currently 57.7 feet in height. The antennas would be located on the rooftop, which is actually the flat level of the rooftop is 43 feet. And the antennas will be screened behind some stealth screening material that will be designed and constructed to identically match the building, so that from the exterior, from the ground level, you won't be able to tell that there are any antennas there at all, as opposed to the current site, which if you look at is quite obvious what it is. And we'll take a look at that in a minute with some of the documents that we submitted with the application. But again, as Mr. Sikora indicated, the Board of Supervisors must review and approve the proposal because it constitutes technically even a minor modification of the PRD, and that's got to be, or the PRD plan, that's got to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. We will also be meeting with the zoning hearing board to obtain approval for the proposed use in the zoning district, and I believe we're scheduled to meet with them on the 20th. So again, we'll be seeking the use approval from the zoning hearing board. Overall, board members, this proposal is what's considered a co-location of antennas, meaning that T-Mobile is not constructing a new structure, either a tower or a building or some other support structure for placement of the antennas. Rather, it is placing the antennas on an existing structure, much the same as the original antennas were located on the fire company. Part of what we submitted to the township with the application are a set of zoning drawings that I think the board has as attached to the agenda. And if the board wants to take a look at those, and I think that's identified as the site plans in the agenda. If you look at,
Are you taking all the antennas off of the fire company or just yours?
just the T-Mobile antennas. Now, all of the,
One's
but
still
all
on
of,
that building.
no, all of the antennas must come down because the building is being removed. I'm only here on behalf of T-Mobile antennas, but
Oh, I
if-
understand that, but there's other antennas on that existing tower today that aren't T-Mobile's, correct?
I believe there are other antennas. I don't know that there are other wireless carrier antennas on that structure.
And you said that the existing roof is 43 and the overall height of the building is 57. Is that correct, what you said?
Yep, let me just double check. I'm looking at the plans again to double check the elevations. And the elevation depiction on the zoning drawings are on sheet Z7 of the plans that were submitted. And I think what's being scrolled through now is the photo simulation is what you're seeing, which I'll get to in a minute. But on sheet Z7 of the plan, it shows the existing rooftop, the flat part of the roof is 43.6 feet in elevation above grade. And the actual top of the building is 57.7 feet.
I'm not seeing that, but okay.
Okay, if you go to sheet Z7, we'll give it a minute to scroll through.
So while Mike's looking at the drawing, this is Ed, let me ask you another question. So I'm just looking at the picture of the firehouse with the structure that's there right now. So the structure, it looks like one structure that's supporting many antennas. So obviously one of those is T-Mobile, but wouldn't you say that some of these other antennas must be antennas from other carriers? And there was some coordination to mount them all on this common structure on top of the firehouse?
I'm not aware that there are other wireless carrier antennas on that site. So for example, at the new site, T-Mobile will have 9 antennas, a total of 9 antennas. So it could well be that the antennas that are located on that structure are in fact just T-Mobile wireless communication antennas. Now, I'm not saying that there's not some other whip antennas that might have been used for local communication, perhaps by the fire department. But I'm not aware that there are other wireless communication carrier
What I
antennas.
hear you saying is, I mean, I'm looking at the picture right now. You're saying there could be as many as 9, and there looks like that there could be that many in the picture that I'm looking at. Hard to tell, but to your knowledge, then Verizon, AT&T, other carriers, to your knowledge, would not have antennas on that existing structure.
Correct.
Okay, because I think one of my concerns, and I think maybe one of some of the other board members had concerns where, we're moving an antenna, and then, we have to deal with all the other carriers and all these antennas being moved at different times and, different plans and so forth. But this is, no, I think you answered my question. If it's all T-Mobile, no.
Yeah, and that is my understanding. In fact, if there were other wireless communication carriers on that location, I'm sure that there would have already been applications from them for alternative sites because, again, the building is scheduled to be demolished.
When is it? Do you know when that building's being demolished, when you have to be off that roof?
No, I do not. I don't have a specific date other than I know that we need to get the antennas moved ASAP.
And if and when you get approval, how long does the process take for you to put them on the new roof?
The process for construction on the new roof to put the new antennas will be relatively quick. Let's say, maybe 90 to 120 days once the process starts, once a building permit is obtained.
Let's talk about what the new ones, I know you submitted the plans, but if we can kind of talk about what the new ones are going to look like.
If you look at, again, the plans that you have before you, if you go to sheet sheet Z11.
Like boxes. So like boxes?
Now, the boxes that are shown there are what are called RRUs, which are part of the antenna functioning, but they're not the antennas themselves. On sheet Z11 to the left of those boxes are some panel structures that are shown on poles. And it's the panel structures that are the antennas. So these antennas will be panel type structures as shown there at the top left corner. And then the RRUs are an additional structure that goes or additional equipment that goes at the base of the antenna. And that assists in the transmission of the signals. So if you go down below to the lower left-hand corner, that gives you a side view, okay, of the antenna mounted on a pole. So the pole is the center structure, and then the panel antenna is located to the right. And then behind the panel antenna, I guess it's not located quite at the bottom, but behind the panel antenna, also located on the pole, but kind of facing in the opposite direction, is the RRU unit.
So how high, what's the height of the antennas on top of the roof? How far do they move?
If we go back to sheet Z8. That shows an elevation view of the building, and it shows the proposed stealth screening structure. And behind that is located the antennas and the RRUs. And that's on the right-hand side of the elevation drawing. It calls out the height of what that structure will be, which is going to be 53.6 feet in elevation above grade.
Okay, so 10 feet above the top of the roof, say.
Correct. Yeah, it's going to stick up about 10 feet above the existing flat roof line, but still below the total roof line elevation of the building.
But the actual antennas will be hidden behind the structure, so you won't really see the antennas themselves.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact,
how about on the back side of the building? So people maybe who were viewing this from from across the way, the Ellis Preserve or Winding Way, looking from the other direction, what will they see from that direction?
and it'll be the same thing from the ground level. You won't see anything because those will be hidden behind the screens. The best way to picture that is to go to the photo simulation, which we submitted, which is the second to last item on the list on your agenda. It says current site and photo sims.
What about people in the buildings that are multiple story right next to this building? So they're not going to see this roof line and they're going to see any equipment on the roof?
No, the only way that you would be able to see that would be as if you were able to look down on it somehow.
Well, you do.
Well, you
From
do. The
Charles
buildings next to it
Ellis.
are higher.
And Charles Ellis, the elevation from Charles Ellis Drive is higher, so you're gonna see the back of the.
You're saying.
Well,
apartment.
I'll tell you what, if we take a look at,
Ellis,
I'm
'cause
sorry.
when you look down, you can look
Or
at the top
Mainline
of the
Health.
roof, yeah.
Mainline Health is higher.
Well, yeah, if we take a look at the photo simulation, if we could, yeah, that first picture, if you stop just there for a second. So this shows the current fire department building that's scheduled for demolition and the current T-Mobile antennas that you were referring to originally on the rooftop. And you can see what that looks like. And then if you go to the next page of the photo sim, that shows an overview of the proposed site. It shows the Hilton Garden Inn. And then it shows with the circular red numbers, you have 1,
But
2,
your
and 3.
drawing's correct. All those trees are gone. To the left of there is a bunch of multiple story buildings. So you're telling, did you take a perspective of those multiple story buildings? The building right next to this is a five-story residential building. There's also a medical building. There's also a AmeriHealth. So you got to go at the level of they're going to see the roof of this building. So are you hiding this from view from those buildings also? You can't just say it's from the ground.
Well, generally when we try and stealth the antennas, it's to stealth them from the primary view shed, which is from the ground. Most people are looking at the building from the ground. I certainly understand what you're saying.
Unfortunately for you, the owners of the property that own this hotel are also building this multifamily building, and they're gonna have residents in that building. They're gonna look on the roof of this building. So my question, and I think the other board members' questions are, how are they shielded from view at that height?
Well, there's no plan in place currently to shield the antennas from that view shed. And in all candor, I'm not sure that there's a way to do that and still provide for the function. Now, I will say that the owner of the development is our landlord, and they're aware of the proposal to place the antennas on the rooftop, and they certainly want to see it screened with the design that we've proposed. But I can certainly go back and talk with T-Mobile about the possibility of some additional screening, but I don't know that it's candidly possible to screen them from above and still have them function.
Mike, this is Rich Sikora. What I suggest is, since you're going to have to go before the zoning hearing board and come back anyway, why don't you coordinate with the folks who did this point diagram and see what it would look like from those other vantage points. You'll have that information from, like you said, the landlord of the overall area. And there are some elevation differences that might favor what you want to do. I would take all that into consideration, and I think the board would appreciate just that other perspective.
And also, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And if we could also have a photograph of what these look like on another building, very similar size, if you can just show us what the equipment looks like. I mean, I see a drawing and I'm well versed in a drawing, but it still doesn't, like, I can read plans, but I think it's good if you can give us a photograph that also shows what it's going to look like.
Yeah, and so the facade that goes across the front, you can't see the antennas like you explained to us because they're behind that facade.
Right.
On the other side of the antennas, can't you erect a facade on that side? So in effect, that the antennas are kind of boxed in. You couldn't see the antennas from any side. You can only see the facade around the antennas.
Yes, I don't disagree with that. I think that you could erect a structure on both sides of the antenna. I thought the concern was looking down from above. I don't know there's a way to completely box them in and still have them function, but certainly, yeah, we can explore putting something behind the antennas.
But if you put the facade around them at least the same height, you're not going to see anything from any of the other buildings. I mean, they're not that close. If you put the facade around, we're not worried about looking from the sky down, just from the other surrounding buildings. So
yeah, just if you do the same thing on the other side. Right?
Yeah, if it's boxed in, you won't see them.
Sure, and I think T-Mobile would be willing to do that, subject, of course, to the landlord's approval. They would have to approve that additional structure up there, but I think conceptually, T-Mobile wouldn't have any opposition to that.
Mike, do you have anything else you want to present for this?
What?
No, Mike or Rob, do you have anything else you want to present?
No, we'll be happy to take a look at a photo simulation, Rich, as you suggested, from that perspective, and then also a photograph of what these antennas look like so that you can picture them in a real world setting. No, what we're essentially asking the board to do is to approve this. Again, we're going to be meeting with the zoning hearing board on the 20th, and if the board would like us to come back at the next meeting after the zoning hearing meeting to present some additional information on this, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Sikora, do you have something you want to add? I'm sorry, I just saw you turn.
Only that, Mike, if you could also confirm that you're the only wireless facility on the old tower, meaning that it can come down after you would move over.
Yeah, I will do that.
Is there any other board discussion? And what I'm hearing before we get into that is that I think that you're probably correct there, Mr. Rob. I think that what the board most likely is going, or what I think is probably going to happen is that we're going to keep this open until you go to zoning, and then depending on how zoning comes out, you coming back to us. But that's just my opinion on this. Any other board members have anything they want to add?
Agreed.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Then, Mr. Grob, what we are going to do is, as I said, we'll hold this open. We'll keep the record open. And then pending your outcome over at the zoning hearing board, we'll decide whether you need to come back. I mean, if you get approval of the zoning hearing board, obviously you come back. If you don't, then there's no need for you to come back before the Board of Supervisors. I do want to add just one thing, because I know that you mentioned, and it's no fault of your own, that the firehouse is coming down and that it's being demolished. While I suspect it's probably something that's going to happen in the future, I want the residents who are listening to this know that no permits have been filed for demolition. I think it's a foregone conclusion that something's going to happen to that property eventually, but there's nothing that's been submitted to the township with regards to a demolition permit.
Thank you, board members. Understood.
Thank you. All right. We'll move down to section 14, new business 14.1, consider approving the advertisement of a new police officer. Mr. Neese, do you want to add anything to this?
The only comment that I would make is that obviously this is in the budget, and so it usually takes 4 to 6 months to go through the process. That's why I'd like to get started.
Perfect.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Russo. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. 14.2, consider approving the advertisement of the open administrative position in the police department.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Partridge. Is there any board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. 14.3, consider allowing the staff to move forward with the ordering of 2 new police cars.
So moved.
Second,
Mr. Neese, do you want to add anything to this?
Again, this is part of the 2022 budget, and we're just moving forward.
Perfect. I believe the motion was made by Supervisor Russo and seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Section 15, old business. There is no old business. Section 16, resolutions of legislation and action. 16.1, I apologize. I hope Mr. Petroza isn't still sitting there, but consider approving resolution 2022-05, preliminary final land development approval for SAP. Supervisor Russo, do you have that resolution?
Yeah, Rich, do I have to read this whole resolution? All 4 pages?
No, you don't have to. If you're, I thought you voted already to approve it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just, all you gotta do is sign it.
All right, we don't have to read this, Rich?
No, I mean, it's just a quirk of the agenda that you might want to adjust, that you have your land developments and then you have resolutions as a separate category. But when you approve the land development, you're actually resolving to approve the thing. So, I mean, you've already approved it. You want to read just the conditions of approval, which are standard, and that's fine.
Did comply, what he has to comply with?
Yeah, you could go right down to the,
Now therefore be resolved, the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township here resolves, conditionally approves the aforementioned application and plan subject to and condition upon the following. The applicant must comply with the following: the comments and recommendations of the aforementioned township engineer letter and fire marshal letters. The applicant will designate recreational lands and restrict same to recreation to satisfy the township solicitor engineer. The applicant shall obtain necessary permissions and enter into relevant agreements with and pay the required fees to Newtown Township, Delaware County Municipal Authority. Applicant shall comply in aspects with all the applicable codes, township codes, ordinances, and regulations, as well as any applicable county, state, or federal regulations, including E&S permitting requirements and obtaining the necessary sewage planning modules or waivers. Applicant will post financial security and execute a developer's agreement and financial security agreement and post financial security pursuit to the MPC and Township Code in form satisfactory to the Township Solicitor and the Township Engineer prior to applying for or receiving permits. The applicant will execute a stormwater management agreement and pay the appropriate fees for inspections. The developer shall construct the development in accordance with the plans except as otherwise modified herein. The terms and conditions of this resolution and any agreements required by this resolution and preliminary/final approval is contingent upon payment of all outstanding professional fees /escrow replenishment within 45 days of approval, except as properly challenged in accordance with approval. The following waivers for the township ordinances are granted. Section 148-12 to allow for preliminary and final proofs to be considered as the combined submission. The township manager is authorized to execute all agreements on behalf of the township to comply with this resolution. Resolved this 10th day of January 22nd at a public meeting of Board of Supervisors.
Second.
Mr. Altieri, you're on mute.
Thank you. I just went through that entire motion. So motion was made by Supervisor Russo, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap to approve resolution number 2022-05, the preliminary final land development approval for SAP. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion
Abstain.
carries 4-0 with one abstention. 16.2, consider approving resolution 2022-06, setting the township public comment policy. Supervisor Partridge, do you have a copy of that?
Yep.
Please do the honor, sir.
Yeah. Resolution number 2021-06, a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of Newtown Township, Delaware County, establishing rules and regulations for the conduct of public meetings pursuant to the Sunshine Act. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Newtown Township Board of Supervisors hereby adopts the following rules and regulations for its public meetings. 1, an agenda should be prepared in advance of all public meetings, which should be posted on the township website before the scheduled public meeting whenever possible. Copies should also be available at the township offices. All appointments. Number 2, all appointments, correspondence, a request to be placed on the agenda should be made 1 week before the scheduled public meeting. No items should be placed on the agenda sooner without specific direction from the chair of the Board of Supervisors. 3, residents shall have the opportunity to provide public comment via electronic mail by emailing their public comment to publiccomment@newtowntownship.org by 3 p.m. of the date of the meeting in which public comment relates. For those number 4, for those residents who do not use email, they shall have the ability to drop off written public comments in the drop box located in front of the township building. All hard copy public comments shall be received by 3 p.m. of the day of the meeting in which the public comment relates. 5, order of business. The order of business at the Board of Supervisors meetings will typically be as follows. Call to order, roll call, moment of silence and pledge to the flag, approval of the agenda. Public comments on agenda items only. Approval of minutes of previous meetings, resolutions of recognition, presentations, appointments to boards and commissions, reports, fund transfer, budget adjustment, payments, bills, developer release, land development approval, public hearing, new business, old business, resolutions of legislation and action, ordinances, additional business, board comment, public comment, non-agenda items, items for the next agenda and adjournment. Number 6, orders of motions by the board. A supervisor is recognized by the chairman. B, the recognized supervisor or the chairman makes a motion considering the item on the agenda. C, the motion is seconded by another supervisor. D, the chairman asks if any supervisor wishes to discuss the motion before a vote is taken. If several supervisors wish to discuss the motion, the supervisor making the motion may speak first. Supervisor wishing to speak shall do so upon recognition by the chair. A supervisor once recognized shall not be interrupted when speaking unless it is for the purpose of calling such supervisor out of order. E, the chairman then asked if any member of the public wishes to comment on the motion before a vote is taken. Members of the public shall observe the procedures of this resolution when providing comments. The chair shall not permit any member of the public to speak twice on a motion until all have had a chance to speak once. F, any supervisor may offer an amendment to a motion or a motion to postpone/table. The chairman shall ask the maker of the original motion if they agree to include the amendment or accept the motion to postpone/table. If the supervisor agrees and no other supervisor objects, the original motion is amended or postponed/tabled. If any supervisor objects, the amendment or motion to postpone/table must be seconded, be open for discussion, and be voted on the same as any other motion. G, the chairman shall call for a vote on a motion. All votes shall be made by voice vote unless a request is made for a roll call vote. 7, public comment on non-agenda items. At the end of the agenda, for each public meeting, time shall be set aside for members of the public to comment on matters of general or individual concern in the township and not on the public meeting agenda. A, public comment is intended to afford citizens an opportunity to express opinions and to bring important matters to the attention of the Board of Supervisors. Although they may, nothing herein shall require supervisors to answer questions or engage in debate. All remarks by the public should be addressed to the chairman. 8, public comments on the agenda items. In addition to the general public comment period, the board shall take public comment during the meeting only on those items requiring official action. The Sunshine Act defines official action as recommendations made by an agency pursuant to statute, ordinance, or executive order, the establishment of policy by an agency, decisions on agency business, or voted on any motion, proposal, resolution, rules, regulations, or ordinance or report. Members of the public commenting on agenda items shall follow the procedures outlined in this resolution when providing comment. 9, general conduct of public comment. Members of the public shall comment only after being recognized by the chairman conducting the meeting. B, all comments should be made from the podium at the front of the meeting and made into a microphone. C, members of the public shall record and announce their names and addresses prior to addressing the Board of Supervisors. D, the chair may rule out of order, scandalous comments, impertinent and redundant comments, and/or comments designated to disrupt the proceedings of the meeting. E, public comments shall not contain personal attacks and shall not consist of or become arguments between residents and township employees or between residents and members of the board. 10, draft meeting minutes will not be posted on the agenda website prior to the meeting at which they are scheduled for approval. However, draft meeting minutes will be attached to the agenda for the meeting at which they're scheduled for approval. Meeting minutes shall be posted on the township website after approval by the board. All meeting minutes are available for inspection at the township building. 11, to increase public transparency, board meetings are video recorded. The recorded video is posted on the township website as well as YouTube within several days after the board meeting. Resolved this 10th day of January 2022 by the Board of Supervisors, Newtown Township, Delaware County, in lawful session duly assembled. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, and I just have a clarification, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Supervisor Roberts Lightcap.
Refers to residents, correct? It's referred to as citizens in this, so it means residents of Newtown Township for comment.
Yeah, we can, I mean, if you want to flesh that out, we can put it, we can say at the end of the agenda, talking about paragraph 7, at the end of the agenda for each public meeting, time shall be set aside for citizens of Newtown Township, aside for members of the public from Newtown Township, along the lines of that. I mean, if we really want to flesh it out, I think it's understood that it's just for citizens of Newtown Township, but it's whatever the board desires.
Do you think it hurts to define it in this, since we've defined everything else in this as far as our as far as the code of conduct for public meetings?
I don't think it hurts to be as specific as possible.
Okay. So let's do that. So for 7, it currently reads, set aside for members of the public to comment on matters of general or individual concern in the township. Supervisor Chanlis, you're the best with words. How would you like to have this rewritten?
Sorry, I lost my Zoom. Okay. I can't view the
All right, let's say this.
version from here.
Time shall be set aside for members of the public who are residents of Newtown Township to comment on matters.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, residents of Newtown.
Residents of Newtown Township.
Members of the public who are residents of Newtown Township to comment, right?
Yep.
Who are residents of Newtown Township. That covers it.
Yep.
And then I would also just flesh it out then for 7A. Let's just say public comment is intended to afford citizens of Newtown Township.
Great.
That's a good grab, Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. An opportunity to express. Good.
Who crafted it? Joe or Rich?
I didn't hear what you said, Supervisor Partridge.
Who crafted this, Joe or Rich?
It actually was a policy, I believe, from the township, and then there was input from Joe and myself on it.
It was Joe, okay. Did you have another point? I have a point.
No.
Okay, under condition number 2, it has no item should be placed on the agenda sooner without specific direction from the chair of the Board of Supervisors. I know when I was on the school.
Let's do this. If we can do this real quick, let's get, I believe it's been seconded by, it's been made by you, Supervisor Partridge, and then it was seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. Do we want to move this into the discussion? Since we already made those edits, I guess we should just say for that matter that we're in discussion, just to keep this clear of where we are. And then go ahead, you're good to.
Yeah, so we have the one change, for consideration that Tina made, right? So a second change. I know when I was on the school board that, whether it's absence of the chair or other reasons, there was that the majority of the board could put items on the agenda. I don't know if that's necessary or not. I'm just thinking about, my time on the school board, where in the absence of the chair or, chair didn't want to put something on, there would be 5 board members. Here would be 3 board members can also add something on the agenda. I don't know if something that we want to consider or that we need, or again, I'm just thinking back of on there.
Well, this is only saying that it can't be placed sooner. It's not saying that the chair has unilateral ability to block or add something on there. I mean, theoretically, this verbiage is a little, if you want to say overkill or not, because we do have the ability to approve the agenda as individual board members. That's how I would look at it.
How about if we just said no, how about we just add to the sentence and, where it says no item shall be placed on the agenda sooner without specific direction from the chair of the Board of Supervisors or a majority of the board.
The only reason why I would push back on that is my understanding is that it's been common practice that to keep the administration without having them run around with their hair on fire prior to a supervisor meeting coming out, is that they put the agenda together, they give it to the board chair. The board chair says, great, let's move forward with it. My understanding is that in prior practices, there's never really been many changes to it. So, I mean, again, this is just saying that nothing can be placed sooner than a week ahead of time. It's not prohibiting the chair from putting anything on there.
That's how I read it as well, Ed. That
Yeah.
it wasn't just the control of the agenda, it was just the timing of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Again, it's
No,
not something I feel real, overly strongly about. It's just, again, thinking
No,
back.
and you're right to think that in case there's dissent on the board and, and there wants to be an agenda, that 3 people want that on the agenda and the chair blocks it. I get it. What you're
It could
saying,
be, it could be, exactly. It could be
Yeah.
dissent on the board, or the other issue could be that the chair can't be reached.
Yeah.
And the board say that, I don't know, like hypothetically, that the 3 of us sitting here, you'll want to get something passed. Len, you're in court, Steve can't reach you. We have a deadline to set up the agenda.
I think this is just if there's a again, to keep the timing, right? Because
Right.
what was happening, we were getting things that day on the agenda. And so this is to keep everyone to say, I think this is to, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chairman, but this is to kind of lay the playbook for everyone.
Yep.
This is where, we're saying this is the playbook. I mean, this is what we've been doing all along, but I think it's to refer to the playbook.
Yeah, and it's to make it a lot easier. You're exactly right, Supervisor Roberts Lightcap, and it's to make it easier on the administration. I mean, so that they're not running around, like I said, like a chicken without a head.
Well, that's fine. I mean, because I think, I assumed that if we needed to put something on the agenda, and we had a majority of the board, and I'm assuming that we could do that if we needed to anyway. I don't know, maybe it's a question for Joe or.
No, you definitely can. I mean, that's simple Robert's rules.
Yeah. Joe or Rich, do you?
You don't want to take my word for it?
I'm trying to, keep you out of the hot seat there.
It's still on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ed, this wasn't the way I understood it was a policy just as sort of like a fallback but it's not like an ordinance where it's got to be followed strictly, but it's like, who said playbook, Lenny? It's just, it's something for the administration to be able to sort of follow when there is no direction. Let's put it that way.
Okay, but Joe, if the chair was unreachable and the majority of board wanted to get something on the agenda.
Yeah, that can always be done.
Okay, that's all. So no changes then, on my end. I guess we just have the one that Tina made.
Right, for the resident, to define residents.
And I'll,
it's really residents and taxpayers but I didn't want to get bogged down on anything because even though it's a resolution, it's a policy and it wouldn't change, what somebody said, what the law is anyway, or we're doing, a taxpayer can always, so we don't have to get that far down on minutia.
Okay.
But it's good just to have the policy in place.
All right, perfect. I hope that no one throws me in a trunk and that we need to change the agenda and I can't get found. The only other comment that I want to add to this is that this is also representative of how this board wants to move forward. This is expanding the ability for residents to provide greater avenues of communication and public comment to the Board of Supervisors. We are bringing back the ability for residents to provide public comment through the email. The cutoff now will be 3 p.m. as opposed to an hour before. Again, that is to ensure that our administrative staff that is busy 24 hours a day doing this job can continue to prepare for the meeting while also ensuring that all the public comment has been documented accordingly. It is now allowing individuals to provide public comment at the beginning on agenda items, as well as just general public comment at the end. So it is this board really responding to the desire of the public to have open and direct lines of communication to ensure that their opinions are being taken into consideration before we make decisions that are going to impact them. So this is a huge win for open, accessible, good government that this board is putting forward. So I'm extremely excited that this policy is being implemented and that our agendas will reflect that. So I don't know if there's any other board discussion on that.
How do we handle the motion then with the
yeah,
change?
I'll include the proposed change from Tina and into the motion I made.
Perfect. Sorry, I thought we did that already. So we're all good with the changes. The motion has been made by Supervisor Partridge, seconded by Supervisor Roberts Lightcap. We had board discussion on this. Is there any other board discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll now move down to section 17, additional business. I don't believe that there is any. We'll move down to board comment. Is there any board comment? Seeing none, we'll move down to public comment. If there is public comment, as the township manager said, please use the option in the Zoom to raise your hand and we will call on you.
No hands in the room.
No hands in the room. I don't see
In the room.
any public comment on the Zoom. Second and last. Second and last. Okay. Seeing none, items for the next agenda. I don't believe any supervisor has anything that they need right now. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.